Good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us. My name is Suzu Solkin. I'm the Director of Marketing for Li9 Technology Solutions. I want to thank you for joining us this morning for our Infrastructure Provisioning with Ansible Tower workshop. At this time, I would like to turn it over to our presenter, Alexei Yusov, who is our Senior Systems Architect. Alexei.
Thank you. Thank you, Suzu. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Infrastructure Provisioning with Ansible Tower. My name is Alexei Yusov. I'm Senior Systems Architect with Li9 Technology Solutions, and I'm also Red Hat Certified Architect Level 14. I've been working with Ansible for more than 3 years now, and among my credentials is the certificate of expertise in Ansible automation, which is part of the reason I'm doing this demo right now. But before we start, I'd like to take care of some housekeeping items. And the first one is please enter your questions through GoToMeeting chat, and they will be answered right after the demo is completed. Second, please mute your audio in order to avoid any distortions. Thirdly, at the completion of the demo, a web address for a short survey will be provided, and respondents will be entered a drawing for a pair of Apple AirPods headphones. And lastly, follow-up demos can be requested and scheduled by emailing demo@li9.com or texting the phone number you can see on your screen. Now, let me tell you a little bit about what Li9 is and what can it do for your company. Li9 is a Phoenix, Arizona-based IT solutions company focused primarily on open source and cloud solutions, including those provided by Red Hat. And our customers include, but not limited to, CenturyLink, Credit Suisse, US Foods, AT&T, and Best Western. Our most recent projects are automated data center for a content delivery network to support an IPTV application for CenturyLink, which is the second largest telecom provider in the US, as well as CI/CD DevOps environment to support agile application delivery. So, we are also engaged into various partnership programs with such vendors as Amazon and Red Hat. And we also have significant capabilities with Red Hat, and we possess the highest partnership levels, including Premier Business Partner, Strategic Services Partner, Application Platform Partner, Cloud Platform Partner, as well as Certified Training Partner, meaning that we can deliver Red Hat-backed training either on site or as a virtual classroom tailored specifically for your organization. Since this presentation is about Ansible, it's only fair that I present you with what projects are provided, what products are provided by Red Hat under Ansible umbrella. The first of them is called Ansible Engine, which is a community-supported version of Ansible, supported and distributed by Red Hat. And the Ansible project, which is an upstream project for Ansible Engine, is a community-supported distribution of Ansible. And you can think of it as an automation language that describes the desired state of your IT environment using special files called Ansible playbooks and the configuration management solution. Essentially, it performs the same tasks as Puppet or Chef, but has some additional features as well. And the second project, Ansible Tower, is an enterprise framework for controlling, securing, managing, and extending your Ansible automation, whether it's community or engine, with a web-based UI and RESTful API. Ansible Tower is an enterprise framework for controlling, securing, and managing your Ansible automation. And it provides the following features. First of them is role-based access control, which allows you to assign your teams or even individual users only necessary privileges so that they can carry out their duties. The second one is task delegation, meaning that you can delegate your users and the entire department the ability to run particular jobs without being able to manage or otherwise change them. Version control, which means that before you run a particular job from Ansible UI, from Ansible Tower web interface, Ansible Tower makes sure that it has the most recent copy of your playbooks checked out from the remote source code management solution, like GitHub, for example. It also offers logging and auditing capabilities, meaning that at any given point of time, you know exactly what launched a particular playbook and when, as well as whether it was successful or not. Ansible Tower can also notify you of the status of the jobs via various channels, such as email, SMS, or HipChat, for example. And I'm sure all of you operations and DevOps folks will like this. Ansible Tower Ansible Tower management can be automated using both REST API as well as CLI. But what exactly Ansible can do for you? Just as I mentioned before, it's essentially a configuration management solution which lets you install packages on remote systems, move files back and forth, start and stop services on multiple machines at once, and all this sort of things. But beyond that, it also gives you the ability to provision your virtual infrastructure from the ground up, which is exactly what we're going to do in the first part of the demo. It can be used to orchestrate various services spread across your infrastructure. It can be used to deploy applications and manage their delivery lifecycle, as well as enforce security and compliance rules. And speaking of devices and remote systems, Ansible Tower can be used for. You don't have to limit yourself to just bare metal servers or virtual machines. You can use it to manage firewalls, load balancers, various infrastructure devices, individual applications, storage systems, Docker containers, cloud platforms, and even network devices. And the list is not exhaustive here. And some of the most important Ansible features are outlined on this slide. And the one in particular I'd like to emphasize on is concerned with this agentless infrastructure, agentless architecture. Meaning that it supports a wide range of operating systems, and there is less surface attack to exploit. Essentially, you can think of Ansible as SSH on steroids, meaning that it can be used to manage any remote system that supports access via SSH protocol or exposes some sort of an API like cloud platforms. Ansible, the desired state of your infrastructure, which is enforced by Ansible, is described in special files called playbooks in either YAML or JSON format, which means they're perfectly readable by you and they don't require any coding skills whatsoever. Ansible Tower also supports such feature called dynamic inventories. And as opposed to static ones, dynamic inventories are basically scripts that construct the list of remote systems to be managed by Ansible on demand before every run of the playbook from the Ansible or Ansible Tower. And last but not least, Ansible ships with over 1,200 modules. And you can think of modules as self-contained pieces of code written in Python programming language, dedicated to performing a single task, like managing a service using systemd, managing the lifecycle of a virtual machine, or copying the text file to a remote system. And regarding cloud platforms, Ansible has modules to manage AWS, Azure, Google, DigitalOcean, OpenStack, Rackspace, and much, much more. And speaking of network devices, Ansible can be used to control network devices manufactured by such vendors as Arista, Dell, Juniper, Cisco, Big Switch, Cumulus, and even virtual network devices managed by OpenSwitch. And it's also worth mentioning that Ansible supports Linux as well as Windows. And Windows support is provided by WinRM remote management facility exposed by Microsoft Windows. And regarding the demo itself, in the first section of the demo, we will see how you can leverage Ansible Tower to provision your infrastructure from scratch. And for this purpose, we will create 2 virtual machines in Amazon Cloud, and we will deploy a simple PHP-based application on those virtual machines. And finally, we will expose this application using Amazon Route 53 DNS service. And on this slide, you can see what the resultant infrastructure is going to look like when the first section of the demo is finished. So you can see that all of our resources, both virtual machines and the DNS record in Amazon, are managed by a single Ansible Tower installation. So without further ado, let's just jump straight to the demo. And Let me just enlarge it a little bit so that it's easier for you to see. And type in our access credentials. By the way, you can integrate your Ansible Tower with your favorite corporate identity management solution like Active Directory or any LDAP-based solution like identity management provided by Red Hat or FreeIPA, which is, by the way, an upstream community project for identity management. On this screen, on this dashboard, you can see the full statistics of your recent playbook runs for the pre-configured period of time from June 24th. And without going into further detail, you can see from the screen alone how many of your playbooks have failed and how many have succeeded. And this is the first thing every user sees when they log into Ansible Tower. So first thing we're going to do, we'll go to template section, and we'll kick off this job called Li9 demo job template in order to start provisioning our infrastructure. And in order to do that, the only thing we need to do is to click on this rocket icon. There we go. And in just a few seconds, we will be redirected to the status screen with the output of this particular playbook. Just give it a few moments. There we go. So for those of you who are familiar with Ansible, you will definitely recognize this output. This is the same output provided by Ansible if you were to run it directly from the command line. And right now, we will go back to the templates, and I will guide you through what has been done in order to achieve this. We click on Li9 demo job template itself to see the details, and here you can see quite a lot of settings. But the most important one is contained in the playbook field, and this is actually the playbook that this is actually the playbook that is launched against that's launched against AWS when you execute this job template. But some of you may have the logical question: how does Ansible Tower know where to get this particular playbook from? And the answer is projects. And Li9 demo job project, demo project in particular. And in Ansible Tower, projects are collections of related Ansible playbooks designed to perform related tasks. And one of the ways to configure them in Ansible Tower is to have Ansible Tower check them from remote repository, either Git or SVN or Mercurial, for example. Several SCMs are supported. So in order to see how this particular project is configured, we go to Projects section from the header of the screen, click on Li9 demo project, and here you can see the most important setting, which is the address of the remote repository where our playbooks are stored. So we can actually go to this repository in our GitHub account. There we go. Let me just zoom in a little bit. And here's our playbook, Ansible configure PHP demo YAML. So every time we run this job template, Ansible Tower makes sure that it has the most recent copy of this repository. Essentially, it performs git pull operation on its local directory. And here you can see various tasks executed in order against AWS. So, for example, I mentioned before that Ansible has quite a lot of modules, support various operations, and perform various tasks. And just looking at this example, you can see that we have, for example, the first task being executed against our virtual machine, against the cloud, is called create a web server instance in AWS. The name speaks for itself, I guess. The name of the module is EC2, which lets you manage the lifecycle of virtual machines deployed on AWS. And below are various parameters needed to customize behavior. And the two of them are access key and secret key for AWS. And these constructs right here reference these variables, AWS access key and AWS secret key, in this file, AWS YAML, which is a variable file. But if you take a look at this file, right here, AWS YAML, you can see that the content is encrypted. And this is exactly where credentials come in Ansible Tower. If we go back to the templates, click on Li9 demo job template, you can see two credentials required configured for this particular job template. First of them is Ansible Vault password of type Vault, and this credential holds a special secret password required by Ansible Tower to decrypt this file and make access and secret key available to the playbook. This is its only purpose. And the second credential, called SSH of machine type, is required by Ansible Tower to connect to newly created virtual machines and perform the rest of tasks on them. So let's take a look at the credentials in more detail. We go to the settings. And by the way, if you ever forget how to find a particular feature of Ansible Tower or a particular setting for that matter, you can go to this control management plane, and from here all Ansible Tower functions are exposed. We click on credentials on the left side of the screen. Click on SSH. Indeed, it has a machine type, and here you can see that it contains SSH private key. But interestingly enough, even though we are logged in as admin user, which is as privileged as we can get, the only thing we can do with this key is to replace it. We're not going to do this right now because this is only demo. But it may seem illogical, but if you think about it, it makes perfect sense from security standpoint. It follows the best practices of less privilege, meaning that if you need to replace a particular piece of sensitive data, you don't necessarily have to have the permission to view it because it's going to be replaced anyway. And if you're not authorized to see it, then it's pretty obvious you shouldn't be able to. So let's go back to the jobs section and see how our job is doing. And turns out it has already been finished. In order to see its details, we click on this zoom icon, view the job. And from the stats on the header of the screen, you see that it has 4 plays, 23 tasks have been performed, 3 hosts have been configured, including localhost, which is the default host present in every playbook run, because it's been reported to, and it took less than 4 minutes to complete. And if we click on this down arrow, we'll be redirected to the resulting stats of this job run. And generally, you want all failed to be zeros, like this, meaning that Ansible Tower was successful in configuring all aspects of our application. And we can access our application by going to demo.li9.com. There we go. This is just a simple PHP-based application, but keep in mind that this is only a demo, and Ansible Tower can be used to deploy and manage applications of any complexity, and manage as many virtual machines as you want. And the only resources you have to take into account in order to achieve the best results are your available network bandwidth and the number of simultaneous connections you can open from your local machine if you use Ansible CLI or just Ansible Engine in case of Red Hat, or from the number of connections that can be opened from Ansible Tower itself if you use Ansible Tower. So let's go to the second part of the demo. And on this diagram, you can see what the resulting infrastructure will look like after we are done with this part of the demo. This demonstration actually is more is more real-life oriented, because it leverages Ansible Tower to configure 8 virtual machines to be able to serve as members of OpenShift cluster. And I just want to make a slight detour by saying that Red Hat OpenShift is another product provided by Red Hat, and essentially it's an application management platform built on top of Docker and Kubernetes. basically it combines orchestrating capabilities of Kubernetes, which manages Docker containers, and various CI/CD and security features. So we're going to kick this job off from the same interface and from the same template section. And just as before, in the first section of this demo, we click on the rocket icon to launch this job. And in just a few moments, you'll see the first outputs pop up. There we go. As you may notice, the first task, by default, the first task in every playbook run or in job run, if we are talking about Ansible Tower, which are the same essentially, the first task is always always gathering facts. And at this stage, Ansible Tower collects various information about your remote systems. For example, number of network interfaces, their IP addresses, and host names, and many others. And these tokens of data can be used to customize the behavior of your playbook even further. So, for example, right now we can see that Ansible Tower has already configured host names for all 8 of our virtual machines. Sorry, and now it's working hard. It's working hard to register in. It has already registered our systems to Red Hat Network, and right now it's in the process of enabling repositories. And the next task, in the next task, it's going to install required packages on our virtual machines. And while we're at it, let's go to template section again, and let's take a closer look at our job template, OpenShift prerequisites. You may notice that in a way it's similar to the job template from the first section of the demo, and indeed it has the project and the playbook as well, even though they're different, because we need a different playbook because the playbook we need is placed in another Git repository, and more specifically in this one. Let's just click on OpenShift directory and go right here. And here's the playbook that's being executed right now by Ansible Tower. So, for example, if you take a look at the output of the job, let's click on View the Job. For example, you can see let's take the task register systems and attach them to the pool. If we go to the playbook itself, you can see the task right here. And essentially it calls Red Hat subscription module with 3 parameters provided: username, password, and pool. And just as with the job template from the first section, these parameters are all encrypted because they're sensitive, and generally you don't want them to be seen by some members of your organization. So let's go back to the template section, OpenShift prerequisites. And here you can see that we have one piece of configuration we haven't used in the first section of the demo, and this is inventory. And in our case, it's OpenShift. Let's take a closer look at this. Let's take a closer look at this item. We have to go to inventories, choose OpenShift, click on groups, and from here you can see that it has 3 groups of hosts. And in order for you to understand what they mean, it's enough to understand that it's enough to know that every OpenShift cluster essentially consists of 2 types of nodes: masters, which perform synchronization and coordination functions and essentially serve as brains of the OpenShift cluster; and nodes, which represent the runtime environments for Docker containers, which in turn run your applications. And we actually have another group called load balancer, consisting of a single host. And the only purpose of this single host is to serve as a central point of contact for clients in the case of multi-master configuration. And multi-master configuration for masters, multi-master configuration is essential part of high availability setup in OpenShift. So if we go to, let's go to the jobs again and see, and from this screen alone, even without going to the job details, you can see that it's still in progress. And if we click on the view job, on view the job, we can see the task that is being performed right now. And at the moment, Ansible Tower is working hard to install all required packages on our virtual machine. All virtual machines are being contacted and install packages on in parallel. And this is the most time-consuming task, but usually it doesn't take more than 5 or 6 minutes. And right now we are almost 4 minutes in. And in the meantime, I will show you how you can how Ansible Tower can be used to notify you of status of your job. We have to go to the settings again, but this time we choose notifications section. And from here you can already see that we have one notification mechanism configured called Li9 Slack, and just as the name suggests, it uses a dedicated Slack channel to post Ansible Tower notifications. And this channel is called Ansible Bot. Now, for those of you who don't know, Slack is just another corporate manager out there, like HipChat, for example. And essentially, you may think of it as a replacement for Skype. And but of course, Slack is not the only messenger supported. You can also use HipChat, IRC, Twilio, or even the webhooks. And the webhooks can be used to integrate to send notifications to arbitrary channels, which use HTTP interface, and you can even send arbitrary HTTP headers. So let me actually, we mentioned credentials before in the first part of the demo, and so let's go to the credentials from this settings screen again. And here you can see that as admin user, we have access to all the credentials in Ansible Tower, which is not surprising, I guess, because we are the most privileged user. But from here, you can also see other users configured to own this, configured to own a particular credential. And in order to see you how you can, in order to show you how you can implement granular access control using Ansible Tower, let's log out and log back in as an unprivileged user named Alice Springs. And for those of you who know a bit of geography from about Australia, you will definitely recognize this name, I'm sure. And by the way, this is the same screen you saw as an admin user. So Alice has access to basically to the same reporting features provided by Ansible Tower. So let's go to settings again. And from this screen alone, you can already see that Alice has far less options available to her because she's a privileged user, unlike admin. Let's click on credentials. And this is not a mistake. It looks just right because Alice hasn't been granted the permissions to view any credentials whatsoever. But it doesn't preclude her from being able to run playbooks or job templates in Ansible Tower terminology, which use those credentials, which is very useful in large organizations where you have to implement various layers of control and grant different departments or even different individual users different privileges. Let's log back in as admin user. By the way, I mentioned in the first section of the demo, I mentioned that you can integrate Ansible Tower in your corporate landscape by hooking it up to your corporate identity management solution like Active Directory or LDAP-based solution, or even GitLab or GitHub if you want to. But one of the distinctive feature of unpaid version of Ansible Tower, which you can freely download from Ansible website, and which is managed by Ansible community, is that it can be integrated with identity management solutions. So all the users you assign privileges to will have to be created manually in Ansible Tower itself, which of course isn't suitable for large enterprises. And another distinctive feature of trial version, that is unpaid one, is that it cannot be used to manage more than 10 virtual machines at once. So these are basically the most important limitations of trial license. Let's go back to the jobs again to see the status of our job. We can see that it's still in progress, but let's take a look at where it's at. Okay, we can see that it's almost done. The most difficult and time-consuming task of installing packages has been completed. And the reason it was the most time-consuming is because even though we had just 3 packages to install, is because each of those packages has a number of dependencies, and all of them has to be satisfied. And don't forget to take network bandwidth into account as well. So in the next task, Ansible Tower has configured Docker storage on masters, on nodes. And here you can see, essentially, you can see that 2 types of output here. Changed is outlined in orange, meaning that this playbook actually changed some resource on the remote system. And skipping, which is in greenish color, in blue-greenish color, means that on this particular task has been skipped on this host. And you can see from this output that it was skipped on load balancer, OpenShift demo Li9.com, and on all masters, which makes sense. And in another task, Ansible Tower configured Docker storage. Next, it started and enabled Docker service on all nodes. Performed some other functions like setting up SSH access. And if we scroll all the way down, we can see that everything went well. All failed zeros, which is exactly what we're looking for. And here you can see that, and this output tells us that everything's ready, and right now nothing is stopping us from installing OpenShift on those virtual machines. Now, you might expect us to go into OpenShift installation itself, but this is not going to be the part of this demo for the only reason being because installation of OpenShift cluster may easily take up to 30 minutes, and we have some time constraints here. But the important part is that we automate all the steps necessary to prepare our virtual machines for OpenShift installation, which we otherwise would have to do manually. So in this part of demo, we use Ansible Tower to prepare our existing virtual machines for OpenShift installation. And basically, the only thing that's left to do in order to install Ansible Tower is to launch the installer itself. So this was the demonstration of Ansible Tower. Thank you very much for your attention. And if you have any questions, please submit them into the GoToMeeting chat box, and I will be sure to answer them in the order which they were received. Thank you. And actually, we already have the first questions coming in. And the first one is from Logan Schmidt. Hello, Logan. Can projects share playbooks, or is there some kind of parent-child relationship between projects, making parent playbooks available to all child projects? In Ansible Tower, there's no any hierarchy where playbooks can be placed into. So this is essentially one level hierarchy, meaning that the contents of your meaning that all the playbooks you have stored in your remote Git repository are just checked in by Ansible Tower before each playbook runs. And if you want to share a particular playbook between several projects, I suggest you do it using Git submodule, on the SCM level itself. And the second question is from Jonathan Lung Nielsen. I hope I'm pronouncing it right. The Ansible module slide didn't show basic Linux provisioning functionality. It did have a specific column for Windows-related modules. Other similar modules for basic Linux system administration tasks, such as performing yum check updates or apt-updates or apt-upgrades, or configuration management, such as deploy a new sssd.conf file to all managed servers. That's actually a valid suggestion. And if we go back to the Ansible module slide right here, indeed, you can see various modules related to Windows, but the only reason we didn't mention Linux here is because, as I said in the beginning of the presentation, Linux is supported by Ansible Tower out of the box. And regarding various yum modules, I can show it to you right now. If we go to our repository, to our playbook, for example, let's take this one. Let's just find it. Okay, there we go. So in this task, we named install packages. We have the call to the yum module, and it uses this with items construct to iterate over various packages like Git, Docker, and Ansible. And essentially, it performs yum install for each of those packages. But if you take a look at the documentation for yum module available on the web in the Ansible documentation, you'll see that it can be used to perform updates as well. And in order to update your entire system, like in yum updates, you just have to use asterisk instead of the package name. And of course, Ansible Tower can be used to manage not just yum-based systems, but Aptitude as well, or even Zipper, which is provided by SUSE Linux. Another question we have is from Crystal Pew. Can you demo the insights of a custom module so we can see how that's written? Sure. I actually have it on a separate tab, and all modules in Ansible Tower in Ansible are written in Python. And here, for example, in the source code of the Ansible on GitHub, you can see the full source code of the yum module. So if we scroll way down, for example, I'm just trying to find for example, let's take a look at the remove function. And this function of the source code for yum module describes how the removal of a package is handled by this Ansible module. So the important thing is that source code of Ansible and all of its modules is completely open source and open for your review and any security audit you want to perform. And the next question is from JF. What happens when the license lapses? Well, in this case, your Ansible Tower will revert to the trial license, meaning that you won't be able to manage more than 10 virtual machines. And you also won't be able to interact with additional identity management solutions. And another question is also from Logan Schmidt. You definitely have lots of questions today, which I thank you for. Can you extend notifications further, for example, with webhooks? Having an Ansible Tower send a post request to another server, or does one use SDKs to write a proper extension app module to extend notifications of Ansible? Yes, definitely the simplest way to implement additional notification mechanisms in Ansible Tower would be webhooks. We can go to the settings, notifications. Let's just click on add this time. And from here, you can choose the webhook. And by the means of webhook, essentially, you can configure your Ansible Tower to send notifications to any server, to any HTTP-based service which supports such interface. In this field, you provide the target URL to invoke, and in the field below, you can supply various arbitrary HTTP headers required by this service. But as Ansible is completely open source, of course, you're also free to use its API and write a custom module for sending notifications to another service if it looks more convenient for you. And JF also has another question: do jobs stop or new jobs can be created? I think this question, I presume this question is related to the question about licenses, whether jobs stop or can they be created when the license expires. That's actually a good question, but from my practice, from one of the older versions of Ansible Tower, I discovered that when your license expires, running jobs do not stop. This one I can answer for certain, but new jobs, of course, can be created because trial license doesn't preclude you from doing that. But you'll have to keep in mind that trial license doesn't let you to manage more than 10 systems at once. So you have to take this into account as well. So essentially these were all of the questions, and thank you very much for them. And if you have any more, you can also send them to the same chat window. And right now, I'm handing this over to Suzu, our marketing director. Suzu.
Thank you very much, Alexei. Could you go to the final slide, please? Perfect. Okay, everybody, I'd like to thank you very much for attending. I want to remind you that at Li9, we have a variety of solutions that we can offer you. We do on-site personalized demos, consulting, seminars, educational opportunities. We can schedule for Alexei himself to come on site and do a demo that would be specific to your business case needs. So if you want more information about those opportunities or Ansible or any of the other product lines, please email us at demo@li9.com. and we will get back to you as quickly as possible. Thank you for attending. Please be sure to fill out our survey at www.li9.com/survey, and you will be entered to win a pair of Apple AirPods. Thanks again, everybody, and have a great day.